Greetings, beloved people of God, most especially fellow farmers, but also those who have intentions of getting into farming. You know, today in our country, Uganda, so many people are talking about coffee, the green gold, coffee, the new gold, and so on and so forth. Yeah, to a greater extent, they are right. There's a big income potential in coffee growing, but also there is the however side. And on this Monday, let me be sure, this Monday, the 6th of July, 2026, there's a special message that I want to bring to you, beloved people of God, followers of my channel, or whoever this information will reach, most especially those who are planning to get into coffee farming, but also all other kinds of farming. You see, many of us so many times tend to get into things because of the bandwagon effect, and you see, that is dangerous. And truth be told, with the current publicity, as I once mentioned in one of my videos, of coffee, there are so many debates about coffee. It is easy for someone to get into the trade or the craft without preparing themselves adequately. So now, right here where I am standing, you can see in my background, I've been showing this to you over and over again. Of course, it is no secret that we are in the dry season, and many parts of the central region of Uganda, are suffering from the effects of the sun. But as you can see in the background, as I've been sharing with you before, you can see coffee in my expansion plantation is looking healthy. Of course, I've mentioned before the practice of the fact that we maintained the basin mulched, but the mulching that we did it in the period when it was still raining, okay? Which is what has enabled this coffee that even a couple of weeks or months into the dry season, this young coffee is still looking the way it does. Otherwise, it wouldn't be looking as you see it look like today, thanks to having mulched on time, and of course also the practice of mulching and the practice of maintaining a basin, as I've been sharing with us before, on top of the other practices, foliar fertilizer application and so on and so forth. But the however side, which is where my biggest message of today is, comes into play when we cross over to this side of my mature coffee. I've come down here today, of course, to see how best we can provide these mature coffee trees with water. I've watched a couple of videos on people's channels, YouTube and TikTok. People's coffee farms are actually being wiped out because of the scorching heat. And it is disheartening. And of course, if you are not prepared adequately, you see, I've learned myself practically on this journey that some of these things you might be told ahead of time, but some of them, to really know the importance and value and what it takes and what it means to handle them, when it comes to that time when you must handle them, it takes practical experience, okay? So, if you did not prepare yourself adequately with water, with mulching material, I mean, months of fertilizer application, months of, let me summarize it as agro input fertilization could go to waste if you did not prepare yourself adequately. I've said that so many times because that is where my biggest message is today. Now, for me here, I try to put some measures in place to help me go through a period like this. For example, I've mentioned the spot mulching. I did it in the previous video. I also have some water tanks and a shadow fuel. This is one of the tanks that you see. There are others right up there. And then there's a shadow fuel at the upper section of this farm. And we have even provided these trees with some water already. But when I take you through how these trees look like, you can clearly see that even with the effort and the measures in place, they are still feeling the what? Feeling the sand. By the way, not all the trees, but if you look at on a scale of 1 to 10 in this section of my plantation, about 7 out of 10 of the trees have already started showing the signs of heat stress, okay? And it could even have been worse had we not put these measures in place, like the zonal mulching that I keep talking about, plus the irrigation in place. Now I'm just here thinking the person who doesn't have access to some of these measures, like the mulches that I am using here, but most importantly, because what is needed the most right now is water. Someone who doesn't have a water source in place, what it could be like. Now you could be someone who is starting this out for the very first time. You could be someone who got into this because of the bandwagon effect, like I mentioned already. And there's a mistake that many people could make still out of bandwagon effect, that they shut completely their original sources of income to come and do this, not knowing that this will require input in terms of money, time, and effort for the next 2.5 years to 3 years before they can even begin getting a single penny out of their investment. But meanwhile, during that period, they must survive. Life must go on. They must feed, you know, if they have kids, they have school fees to pay, bills to pay, and so on and so forth. Which is why you must be very, very careful as you get into this craft. Because still, as I mentioned earlier, now when you look at these my trees, they're already carrying berries and have even flowered. But what I can tell you is that if they do not receive the requirement, which is water right now, that they need the most, all the flowers that you see, all the berries that you see are going to go to waste. And all that is money that you could lose, okay? So, I don't know if in my sharing the message is really coming out clearly, and I pray it does, but be prepared adequately before you get into this craft. I hope the message got home, my dear friends, so that as you plan to get into this, you get in there when set, when prepared. May the good Lord bless you. Cheers.